My life was bad enough growing up poor in Manaus, the biggest city in the Brazilian Amazonas. All we had was poverty, crime, and mosquitoes. To make things worse, I developed a rare water allergy due to a genetic defect. This means that whenever I come in contact with water, I have an allergic reaction to it, and hives form all over my skin. This was especially cruel, because here in the rainforest, it's really hot. I was constantly sweating, and due to my allergy, my own sweat felt like thousands of needles poking me non-stop. All I could do was lay on my bed, cry, and wish I would die. But even my tears caused my face to burn and swell up. It was a life of endless torture. My dad was very poor and couldn't afford air conditioning that could have stopped me from sweating. He felt so guilty about it that he spent all his free time wiping the moisture off my skin with towels, just to lessen my pain a bit. But after a few months of seeing me suffer, my dad couldn't take it anymore. He took all his savings and spent them to rent a boat. He told me to get in and put a blindfold on me. Then he drove us deep into the rainforest. It must have been more than 12 hours before he stopped and helped me off the boat. Then he walked me deep into the jungle so I wouldn't find the way back. When he finally took off the blindfold, I saw him crying. He said, "You know how much I love you. I'd do anything for you, but I can't see you suffer anymore." I understood that my dad had brought me here into the jungle to die. But I wasn't mad at my dad. I had prayed for months to be relieved from my suffering, and I knew he was doing it out of love. I gave him one last hug and told him that he was the best dad I could have asked for. Then he turned around and walked away, leaving me behind to die. And despite my pain, I felt at peace. I just lay down and marveled at the beauty around me until I fell asleep. The next morning, it started raining though, so much that not even the trees could give me shelter. Floods covered my feet and it hurt so badly that I changed all my plans in an instant. Maybe it was endorphins released in my body due to the pain. I'm not sure, but I knew I wanted to live. And so I just started running, into the direction my dad had taken off when he left me. I never found the river my dad and I had come from, but after several days of walking, I arrived at a highway, far away from my home. I walked right in the middle of it, made a car stop, and collapsed out of exhaustion. The woman brought me to a hospital where the doctors gave me an adrenaline injection right into my heart to wake me up. They asked if I knew what had happened to me, and I told them about my allergy. It was a poor hospital though, and the only air-conditioned room was the drug compartment room, so they brought me there. It was a small and dark room without a window. They gave me a pillow and I quickly fell asleep. Over the following weeks, I slowly recovered, but I didn't consider going back to my family because A, they had no air conditioning, and B, I didn't want to be a burden to them again. I lived inside the drug compartment for over a month, until a female doctor of the hospital offered me to move into her apartment. At first, I thought she was kind because she gave me my own room with AC, bed, and a mobile phone. But when I asked her if I could buy some books to study from home and educate myself, she told me no and said the room I was living in wasn't free and I had to pay for it by taking care of the household. But even after I'd finished all my daily chores, she still didn't allow me to read a book or study. I think she wanted to keep me as her servant for the rest of her life. Her plan was to keep me uneducated so I couldn't find a better job anywhere else. Meanwhile, I spent most of my time caring for her daughter, who was a narcissist just like her mother. She treated me without any respect and ordered me around to cook her food or clean her room. One time, she even made me go on my knees and act like a horse. Then she put a blindfold over my eyes and told me which direction to go. I ended up hitting a table with a vase on it and it smashed on the floor. Of course, she told her mom that it had all been my fault. And when I tried to defend myself, her mom cut me off and punished me by forbidding me to eat any food for 2 days. Her daughter was grinning all over her face when she heard my punishment. But I knew I would have the last laugh because she was nothing but a spoiled brat. She couldn't even put on her own shoes without my help. There was no way she'd ever turn into a functioning and independent adult. That was my life for 2 years, until the mom's niece came by for a family visit. I noticed that she couldn't take her eyes off me while I served coffee, and later on we talked to each other for hours. I knew she liked me. A lot. I mean, I'm not really into girls, and she wasn't pretty either. But we ended up exchanging numbers. I'm not sure if I'm a bad person for what I did next, but I made her believe that I was in love with her. And because I was completely out of her league, she thought she'd hit the jackpot. I moved in with her the same month and she really liked kissing me. I didn't enjoy it a lot because she was overweight and had bad breath, but so what? I'd been through worse. and whenever I couldn't take it anymore, I just told her that her saliva was making my lips sore because of my water allergy, which was sometimes true, but most times just an excuse to get away from her. My main problem was still that I was living in Brazil. It's so hot there that I couldn't leave my air-conditioned apartment without profusely sweating and being in pain. Meanwhile, my girlfriend loved that I couldn't go outside. She was super possessive and scared of losing me to another girl, but I already had an escape plan. I told her I wanted to become fluent in English so I could teach kids online from my laptop. But my real plan was to become an English teacher so I could move to North Europe, where it's always cold, and I don't have to fear sweating when I go outside. She believed me until she went through my browser history and found I'd also been studying Norwegian. I told her I was just so fascinated with the language, but she didn't believe me.
Are you planning on moving away from me?
No, I don't. I swear by God.
Good. Then you won't mind stopping all your language studies.
But then how am I supposed to find a job?
I don't care. If I see you studying again, I'll throw you out on the streets.
After our argument, she took away my phone and computer, so I couldn't access the internet anymore to study. But guess what? While she went to her work, I taped ice bags all over my body and went to a nearby bookstore to buy an English and Norwegian language book. Because of the ice bags, I didn't sweat and develop hives. That's why my girlfriend never found out I'd left the apartment. She was so insecure that she only allowed me to go outside when I was with her. And if she caught me looking at another guy or girl that was prettier than her, she'd always threaten to kick me out of her apartment. One time, a guy smiled at me, and it made her so angry, she said,
I should lock you out on our balcony for a week. Maybe the sweat would remind you what I've done for you.
But it's not my fault the guy smiled at me.
I saw you looking back at him. That's bad enough.
I was hell-bent on getting away from my girlfriend, and that was a great motivation to study hard and quickly become fluent in English and Norwegian. In fact, it took me less than 2 years to do so. Meanwhile, at night, while my overweight girlfriend was asleep and snoring, I used her phone to send job applications to all kinds of primary schools in Norway. Due to the time differences between Brazil and Norway, I could even do interviews at night while my girlfriend was still hibernating like a bear. Nothing could wake her up. I ended up getting a job and booked a flight to Norway on her credit card. But before I left, I played one last trick. I hid her car keys. The next morning, she searched for them for 20 minutes before she finally gave up and used the bus to get to work. Then I took her car and drove it to a car dealer. I'd never driven a car before, and neither did I have a driver's license, but I managed to get it there without crashing. Then I sold it for $5,000, which was just enough to start a new life in Norway. I won't lie, I'm a genius. I'm in Norway now, and I love it. Super nice people, a good salary, and cold weather. Also, my peoples totally respect me because I only ever wear light sweaters, even if it's negative 20 degrees outside. They call me the Brazilian Viking, even though the real reason I do it is because thick jackets make me sweat, which is even worse than being exposed to the freezing cold over here. Oh, and did I mention that the guys here are really tall and handsome? Life can really change around you if you put in the work. Thanks for listening to my story. If you enjoyed it, please like the video and subscribe to this channel.